Russian fiction writer Sergei Lukyanenko had a LiveJournal page. Like most authors, he hid his identity under a nickname. His page was one of the 3 most popular Russian blogs. But when comments on one of his entries erupted in scandal and he started getting death threats, he decided to close his account.
Real life should include an area of privacy, because internet is a priori outside of privacy. People need to understand that.
But artist Hassan Elahi has no intention of closing his Orwellian project. Instead, he wants to share more information with the world.
I figured in my way, with as much as information as I share, I live an incredibly anonymous and private life. And I wouldn't be able to do that if there wasn't all this information about me in the public, because that's really just noise at the end of the day.
Hassan expects most people to follow his example very soon and usher in an era of total information transparency. The American artist insists that it will be a world without secrets. August 2011 was a turbulent month in London. The fatal police shooting of a young man from an ethnically tense suburb sparked disturbances on a scale the British capital had not seen in decades. Small shops and ordinary Londoners suffered most of all in the standoff. Burglaries skyrocketed over a week of disturbances.
So I walk in my apartment, first thing I notice is that the door was open. So I look around, my flat was completely rampage. It was like a tornado went through. All these drawers were open, clothes and things were spread all over the place. That's when I noticed that the window was open and that the bars had been wedged open. So if you see here, all the damage to the window.
Thieves ransacking the flat of programmer Craig Martin took away what he treasured most, a laptop storing his personal information and numerous projects.
Personal, my work laptop, had all kinds of software and files on it, and although it was encrypted, I felt safe about that. I just didn't want it falling in the wrong hands. At the point the police came and did their forensic work, they were dusting for prints. I couldn't help but think that I was in the Stone Age. I was like, okay, they're never gonna find this stuff, it's gone.
Craig had little faith in the police's ability to catch the culprits anytime soon. So he decided to launch his own investigation. Social networks and a special program he'd installed on his computer proved helpful.
And essentially how it works is you go to the website and then flag that your laptop has been stolen, and the laptop, next time it's online, will start sending reports containing location, pictures of the person if you have a built-in webcam, as well as screenshots of what's going on the screen at that particular time.
It took Craig just a few hours to find out all that he needed to know about the man who'd stolen his computer. He knew his exact location. Facebook provided him with the thief's account, and the laptop's web camera took pictures of him.
A Google search later, I knew where he went to high school, who his family was, all kinds of information about the person. Essentially built this dossier of information and turned it over to the London Metro Police. They were able to pick him up within 24 hours after that.
Through his job, Craig has been tracing changes in how private lives are detailed on the internet for quite some time. He maintains it's impossible for anyone who's been online to hide anymore.
Essentially, you have to know that now when you're online, you have no privacy, and you know, there's not a lot of ways to protect your identity, especially people that use Facebook and have information on blogs or Twitter. All you have to know is a personal piece of information to find the whole enchilada. So.
German Sterlegov is arguably the most eccentric figure in Russian business. He was Russia's first dollar millionaire and founded the first commodity exchange. Now Sterlegov lives in a village. He calls on his countrymen to reject the accomplishments of progress.
So this is our freezer. We didn't have one until earlier this year. And it's a dream come true, because now we have a no-nonsense freezer. We can pack it with big lumps of meat and ice when the cold comes around, and the ice down there lasts all year long.
Sterligov moved his family into a big timber house that has no freezer, no cooker, and no internet access.
This thing is our spy, and it's become our master, and soon our banker too. Then there'll be complete dependence on it. And if you want to escape, there's only one way out.
Nevertheless, Sterligov has to remain in tune with the times. A couple of years ago, he launched a new business project. He needs to make daily trips to Moscow, where he spends 10 hours in his skyscraper office. Sterligov feels it's too late for him to worry about his information privacy. Too much information is already on the internet. But he doesn't allow his children to even approach a computer, let alone go online.
Here, whatever poses a threat to children's health isn't banned. It's actually the other way round. Asphalt is far less dangerous than the TV set, and even chemicals are not as dangerous as the internet.
Two programmers tampering with a new iPhone in the spring of 2011 stumbled upon a file they'd never come across before. As it turned out, the phone was storing information about its owner's movements for the past month.
Now, Apple explained this was fairly sort of innocent, and that may well have been the case, but you can certainly see it happening in the future where this is less innocent and people start using this information, for example, in court cases. You know, if you're accused of doing something, people might say, I demand to see this file on your phone, which will prove you were where I said you were.
Later, the owners of other smartphone brands also complained about snooping telephones. Many spoke in earnest about the arrival of the Big Brother era.
If people don't want that data to be sent to these companies, the best thing to do is not necessarily use those types of services that are hooked to the internet, or just to put that data right out there on the internet, or something that's linked to the internet like a smartphone.
Programmer Sami Kamka is a security expert. He's one of the most prominent whistleblowers of major corporations such as Apple and Google. He's sure that the recording of all iPhone users' movements is just a trial step. Subsequent developments will be more sophisticated. Marketing specialists are not the only ones who reap the benefits of information transparency. Social networks have also made life much easier for recruitment agencies. It wasn't that long ago that human resources staff would rely exclusively on what the candidate told them about themselves and recommendations from previous employers. Now they have more detailed information.
We can find out where candidates have been employed before, where they spoke in interviews, what communities they belong to, or what conferences they have attended. That's what we need to know above all. If we see accessible online information about somebody being a member of some odd community, we will have doubts about his or her adequate behavior.
Before making a final decision, a recruitment agency today checks all information that's available on the internet.
This way, please. We'll start with a brief interview. There was an incident at one major company. The person in question was the former head of HR and was not particularly well liked. One day, security decided to investigate him, and they looked through his browsing history. They came across the questionnaire results that he had filled out on a dating site. It turned out that he had made no attempt to hide the fact that he was a pedophile. Needless to say, the man was thrown out of the company in disgrace.
Activists from the Russian Pirate Party believe it is possible to be anonymous online. In the spring of 2011, they created a site called RuLeaks, which looked similar to the notorious WikiLeaks project. The system developed by the Russian pirates makes it possible for anyone sending information to remain absolutely anonymous.
Whatever you do on the internet will be used against you. Every bit of information you spread through social networks and blogs and the history of your search queries, all that is stored. That information shapes your true profile so much so that it's possible to model your psychological portrait. Even so, there are systems out there that can make you anonymous and secure.
Private detective agency boss Stephen Rambam always concludes his public addresses with the same message: be humble. The era of global openness and universal information transparency began a long time ago. His advice to those who want to have at least a measure of protection is simple: make your visits to the internet less frequent.
And I post just often enough to let people know that I'm alive, possibly once a month. And I'm very careful that I keep location-aware programs turned off, so it doesn't report where I physically am at that moment. And I don't report what I'm doing or who I'm with or things like that.
But the artist Hassan Elahi advocates a different strategy. He urges people not to hide anything and share information about their every move with the entire world.
The reason that information has value is that no one else has access to it. But by cutting out this middleman and giving it directly to the public, the information that this agency has no value whatsoever. So therefore it devalues the currency, and the currency being of intelligence. But if hundreds of millions of people started doing this, we would have to rethink the entire system from the ground up. And we would have to, in that fact. And as a matter of fact, that day it's not that far from that day.
Social networking sites continue to be relatively quiet on the issue of their users' security. But with so much information readily available, criminals will continue to exploit it. Cases like Craig Martin's and Ivan Kaspersky's won't be the last. It seems the only true solution to maintaining your privacy is to completely go offline.